Okay, so let's begin Itmar. Itmar, we have a statement of Amiroim. Usually it's a machlekes. We'll see over here. This happens to be one of the most interesting gemaras in at least in halacha, the halachically interesting. Starts like this: Shachat shtei chatois shel tzibar v'netzarech halachas. Someone shechs two chatos. He was supposed to bring a carbon chatas, and it was a community carbon. How was there community chatas? Well, maybe it was the sar of Avodah Zarah, the goat of Avodah Zarah, which is a chatas. It's brought for the community that Avodah Zarah, based on a psak of the Bezdin, or maybe it was a goat on Yom Tov, on Yom Tov you bring a goat of a chatas. Now this is taking place on Shabbos, so Yom Tov and Shabbos are coinciding, and he's bringing a chatas, which he's supposed to. Problem is he shechted two instead of one. He shechted two. So Amar Rabba v'Temer Rabami. Rabba is going to paskin here, and some say that it's Rabami. Now that's going to be significant, as we'll see in a moment. It says they say like this: Chayev al Shniya, Pater al Rishayna. It's going to be chayev to bring a chatas for the second chatas that he brought. He brought a chatas when he wasn't supposed to, which is a sin. What's a chatas? It's a sin offering. If someone does a sin, he brings a chatas. But this was a community chatas, so he brought one which he was supposed to. He brings a second one which he wasn't supposed to. He shechts it, kayin, or maybe not a kayin, because the shechita doesn't have to be a kayin. And then he has to bring another chatas because he did an avera. Now it says afilu niskarpale b'shniya, even if the first one had a problem. Because what would the problem be? The problem was, let's say the blood spilled and he wasn't able to sprinkle the blood of the first one. Whatever the case is, when he shechted the second one, it was against the law. Even if the first one was a lean carbon, it wasn't so pretty. And so maybe you could say, well, that one wasn't so nice. Let me bring another one. This one's going to be nicer. Nevertheless, he's going to be chayav achatas for the second one that he shechted.
Could it be that he shechted the second one because the first one, like, he wasn't able to get the blood?
No, then he would have to. Then we'd have to. We're talking about when the time he shechted the second one, everything was good. He wasn't supposed to. We're talking. Okay, the Gemara asks like this: does Rabba really hold that he's going to be chayev like that on the second one? We have a clear statement from Rabba. Rabba says if someone has two chatayis in front of him, one is fat and one is lean. Shachat shmeina, if you shechted the fat one, vachkach shachat chusha, and then you shechted the lean one or the weak one, then chayev. He's chayev, because why are you shechting the second one for? You already have the first one and it's Shabbos. It's not allowed. If it was the opposite, first he shechted the lean one, then he shechted the fat one, so then he's going to be pater. It's a problem. Problem with what we said. We said that if you shechted two, even if the first one was lean and the second one was fat, you'd be chayev on the second one. Rabbi says no. Rabbi says you have permission to go shechte. We actually tell him that one wasn't satisfactory. I mean, it was b'di'evet, it was satisfactory, but it wasn't nice enough. And if it wasn't nice enough, you can go get another one. So we have a contradiction in Rabbah. So Iba Yisema, the first teretz is Samik Chusha Mikamaisa. In the first story that we quoted, we said Afilu Nimtzas Rishayna Chusha, even if the first one was lean. So the Gemara is suggesting maybe just take out that clause. Take out that clause, and if they were both equal, then you'd be chayav for the second one. But if the first one was lean and the second one was fat, then you're going to be pater.
They didn't say that beforehand.
We'll see in a moment another detail to it. Iba Yisema, if you want, we can give another teretz. Hahi Rabami Amra. Remember before when we said that who was saying that statement? We said some say that it was Rabba and some say that it was Rabami. Well, that's now going to come back to help us out, because the way we can resolve the contradiction is instead of saying that it was Rabba, we say it's Rabami. Rabami said the first statement that says that he's chayev. Rabba says the second statement that says that he's pater. So it's no contradiction. Two different opinions. We always said that usually this vitema is Amar Rava vitema Rav Papa. But we have it all over, and we explain that because Rav Papa was a Talmud of Rava, so when he would say something, you weren't sure if he was saying it on his own or if he was saying yeah. Like everyone's confused when they heard something from Rabbi Chadakov. They weren't sure if it was from the Rebbe or if it was from Rabbi Chadakov himself. So al derech zeh. So that's what that was this itema. Some say that it was. Now the only thing is I don't know. Dr. Steinan, if Rabbi Ami was associated with Rabbah. Rabbi Ami was in Eretz Yisrael and Rabbah was in Bavel, but maybe Rabbi Ami was originally in Bavel. Okay. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So we jump to the end of the Amaraic period. Nimtzes Rishayna Kusha Bibnei Me'ayim. After you shechted the first one, you realize that something's after you shechted, actually not only after you shechted the first one, after you shechted both of them, you then realized that the first one was actually lean. You couldn't tell when it was alive, but when you opened it up, you saw that it was actually very meager in the stomach. The stomach was very meager. Maybe it had larger bones, but it looked bigger. But turns out there wasn't really anything there. So, the question is, Mahu, what's the din over here? Do we follow his intention? And his intention was wrong. His intention was to shecht it, even though he thought that it wasn't lean. Now, the wording over here, li'isura k'mechaven, is a little misleading. Rashi points out that he wasn't intending for isser. He was doing it b'shoigig. He thought that it's no problem to shech the second one because, for whatever reason. But it turns out that not only was it no problem, but it was actually no problem because it turned out that it was actually lean. He didn't know about that, and it was a problem. He was mistaken that it was no problem, but it turned out that it was actually no problem, right? It turned out he thought that even if it's not lean, he can shecht another one, and that's why he was doing it. And ultimately, what comes out is that it really was lean, and it wasn't a problem what he did. Or do we follow his intention that he said that he was doing it for the wrong reason? Do we follow that he was doing, or do we follow just the practical what actually happened, and it turned out that what he did was correct? Shkacha pratis. He made a mistake, but it turned out that it was correct. The first animal was lean. It was weak. So Amalei, so Rav Ashi says back to Ravina, Lav Haino de Rabba v'Rava. Isn't this a machlekes Rabba and Rava? Rabba and Rava is teacher-students, right? The Itmar, we have a statement like this: Shama shetava tinek bayam uparash mitzuda lahales dagim v'hela dagim eschayev. If the word is out that there's a child that fell into the sea, and someone goes and spreads out a net because he wants to go fishing on Shabbos.
Just had that.
So, and what does he bring up? He brings up fish. He's not part of the rescue crew. He's just wants fish. So he's going to be chayiv when he brings up those fish because you're not allowed to go fishing on Shabbos. It's trapping. If lahalis dagim vehele dagim etinik, let's say his intention was wrong. He wanted to go fishing, but turns out shkacha prat is exactly where he went fishing. He ends up bringing up a child. You just had this maybe in Rambam.
Yeah.
So Rava Amar Chayev, Rabba Amar Pater. Rava says that he's Chayev because his intention was wrong. Right? He wasn't intending. He wasn't part of the Chavayrim, the Tzela crew. He wasn't but Rabba says no, he's Pater. So
Rambam says he's Pater.
The Rambam said that he's Pater. Okay. I know that if there's a machlekes Rabba and Rabbi Yosef, we always go like Rabba, right? Except for 3 places, I think we said. And here the note is also on Rabba, that Rabba says Pater. Okay. So the Gemara explains like this: Adkan Rabba like Pater elakivan deshama amrina nami daiti atinik. Why does Rabbi say pater? Is it because he heard that there's a child there? So he says, you never know. You never know. So therefore, his intention, we're assuming that his intention was also that maybe he'll be able to save the child. He didn't say that, but he said, you never know. Okay. So Avaloi Shama, but if he didn't hear that there was a child and he just went stam fishing on Shabbos and he brings up in his net, he brings up a child, so then loy, then he would actually be chayav. How does it? Let's take this back to us. If he shechted the first animal, he didn't know anything that it was lean. He shechted the second animal. He doesn't know that it's lean. Only afterwards he realized that the first animal was lean and the second one was fat. So even Rava for sure says chayiv, and Rabba would also say chayiv. Everyone would say chayiv, so we have our answer. Ikadamri, some say amalei haina pluktayu. Not that Rabba and Rava would agree, but this is actually going to be a machlekes. Okay. Ditmar, because we have a statement. Okay, now the following word, loy, in the Maseches Hashas takes it out, and the Shita Mekubetzes puts it in. It's the Zion. Let's read it. Loy shama shetavatinik bayam. He didn't hear that there was a child that was in the sea. Upirish mitzud lahalis dagam hela dagam. And he spreads out a net to bring up fish. He goes fishing. And he brings up fish. He's chayav. But let's say lahalis dagam hela tinik v'dagam. Let's say it turns out that he actually brought up a child together with the fish. He saved him. So Rabba Amar Pater v'Rav Amar Chayiv. Even though he had zero intention to save the life, but he did end up saving the life. So Rabba still says that he's Pater. So Rabba Amar Pater because Zil Basar Maisa. You follow what actually happened. Rabba says Pater. No, what did the Rambam say about this? Also Pater, even though he had no intention for it.
Oh, I don't remember this. I just remember. I don't remember the specifics.
Here it looks like the halacha is like Rabba as well. And Rava Amar Chayev is Il Basar Machshavti. Rava says that it's Chayev, you have to follow his intention, and his intention was wrong. Right? He clearly had no intention to save the child. He didn't even know that there was a child there. Right? That's going to be obvious. Okay. Amar Rabba. Rabba says a new statement. It says Chayla Shamdu Legregus Achas. If there's a sick person and the doctor said that he needs to get a gregus. Gregus is a fig, right? And he needs to eat a fig that will help him. People here, he needs a fig. Everyone goes running, and they bring 10 figs on Shabbos. Either they cut the fig, which is a problem on Shabbos. He can't harvest, or they brought it from Rishus Harabim, a different Rishus, which that's also a problem. Whatever it is, they did it with the malach. They did a malacha here, whichever malacha was, they did a malacha. Nevertheless, they're all going to be pater. Even if they all came at different times.
They didn't know that the other people were also.
Right. Every person had permission. Even if the first person that arrived already healed him and he wasn't sick by the time the second people came. It's not a problem. Everyone that's running is doing what they're supposed to do. Boy, Rav has a question. It's a sugya called Marbe B'Shiurim. Let's say there's two. They need to give him two figs. When they go to the tree, there to get the figs, there's one fig that's hanging out of one spot. There's another fig on another spot. So you have to cut two to do two malachas to get him the two figs that he's going to need. But then they notice that there's also another spot on the tree where it has three figs hanging out from one stem. You only have to make one cut. So if you make the one cut, you did one malacha instead of two malachas, but you ended up cutting more figs. or the other one is you make two cuts and you end up cutting the right amount. So is there a prohibition of increasing the size or increasing the amount of in the malacha? Cooking on Shabbos, it doesn't matter if you throw in more meat into the pot. So here, when you're cutting off more figs, it's a larger malacha, right?
Does it play that they were carrying 3 instead of 2? Does that factor in?
It's over here. We're not talking about if they're carrying it. Here we're talking about just with the cutting of it. So, which one do you do? Do you bring the 2 because that's exactly what he needs? That's right. The extra one is going to be totally not for the sick person. Or maybe you bring the 3 to come in Maita. Because you're going to do less harvesting because you're only doing 1 cut instead of 2 cuts. There's no question that you bring the 3. The Adkan like Rabbi Shmuel Hassam. Now we jump back to our Mishnah. What did we say in our Mishnah where Rabbi Shmuel was? So we learned this yesterday, where Rabbi Shmuel says that on Shabbos you don't cut 5 saw of flour, you only cut 3 saw of flour, right? Because over there, Rabbi Shmuel says you have to minimize the amount of prohibitions that you do. Because when you have less food, you also have less harvesting. However, over here, when you have less food, you have actually more harvesting. Over
But in the Shabbos cooking, like they say that like maybe people would add more so they could eat, but when they cut this, like they can't cut more. It's just 1 cut.
when they cut the 3 or when they cut the 2?
When they cut the 3, like
They cut the
okay,
3,
it's
it's good.
an extra one, but it's no, it's not like the meat that they might add more meat so for more people, like when they're doing it for a sick person.
Yeah, forget about the decree. They might forget about they might. Let's say someone does add more. So it's like adding more. It's like cutting more figs, right? It's a larger size. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because here was 1 cut instead of 2 cuts.
Over there, it's 1 pot on the fire.
Always 1 pot in the fire.
So 1 pot on the fire. Doesn't matter how much meat is in that pot.
Yeah, I think it's only supposed to be for the sick person.
And if there's more, so that's a problem, right? Over here also, you're only supposed to cut the amount that you need for the sick person. You ended up cutting a larger one. If there's 2 on the tree, one's large and one's small. The sick person only needs a small one. Should you cut the smaller one or the larger one?
But the difference is that here the exact measurement is 2 cuts.
Right.
And then with 1 cut you get an extra one.
Right. So we're missing one detail here because would you be let's take the exact case. If you have 2 figs on the tree, one is small and one is large. They said the sick person only needs the small one. Should you cut the smaller one, or are you allowed to cut the larger one?
The small one. Like
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe you can cut either one because it's just 1 cut. So apparently you're right. Apparently you're supposed to cut the smaller one for that's what it seems, at least from here. When it comes to shechting an animal, that's another question.
But that's a whole different thing.
Why?
Because it's you can't shecht more an animal like like
if there's 2 animals here, one's small and one's large. Doesn't matter which one you shecht on Shabbos for the sick person. Can you shecht the larger one?
It's the same thing. No, I don't know.
Okay.
But it's the only one shita. Like the whole animal is dead.
Okay, so here what we're saying is like this: that when it came to the case of Rabbi Shmuel that was harvesting for the Aimer, we said that if you cut more, then you actually, if you're going to get 5 saw to be able to get the isaran, you actually have to cut more, and every time you cut, you're getting more food. It wasn't that cutting less would give you more and cutting more would give you less. You don't have that. It's exactly, the ratio is exactly, you cut 5, then you have 5. But over here, when you have less food, which that's what we're aiming for, but kamaf saksira, you end up doing extra harvesting. So we don't want to do that. So therefore, so definitely you bring the 3 one, which is less less prohibitions. Okay. Next Gemara. Mitzvahs ha'omer lahavi min hakarev. The omer, remember, it's brought on the day after Pesach, right? The omer is it's the mitzvah is to bring it from as close as possible to Yerushalayim. Why should that be a mitzvah to bring it from as close as possible? The explanation is because you want to bring it when it's soft. And this I heard from people that live near farms. They said when they would pick corn in the fields, they could eat it right away. They could eat corn on the cob. They could eat it right away without cooking it. They just pick it and eat it. They said, but then when you get it in the store, it already gets hard and you can't. When you wait, they have to boil it. That's why we boil it usually. So the grain apparently is much softer right when you cut it, and then as time goes by, it gets harder. So the mitzvah is to cut it very close to Yerushalayim because it says caramel, which means that it's supposed to be soft. The grain should be soft. But lay biker karv Yerushalayim. If the fields that are close to Yerushalayim didn't ripen yet, so then yes, sometimes you have to go further away. Maybe in Mikol Makim you get from further out where it's already ripe because we're talking about it's got to be brought on that day, so you got to get it. So you have to go look for it, right? So Maseches Menachos, we're not talking about that you're getting it from Chile, but talking about it has to be from Eretz Yisrael, right? Because it's the Omer, right? It's only from Eretz Yisrael. There was a story where they had to bring it from these distant places, a place called Gagas Shifim, or the Shtei Alechem one time they had to bring from Bikas, the valley of Ein Seicher, which are far from Yerushalayim, but nevertheless. Okay, that's a proof that sometimes you can, if it's warrants, you can bring from more further away. My time, what's the reason why it's supposed to come from close? Iba yisema mishum carmel. Carmel is a compound word of rach. If you take the first two letters and you read it backwards, it spells rach, which means soft. Malay means full. It means that it should be soft and it should also be full. And if you bring it from somewhere far away, it's going to get hardened. The other reason is because if you have something close by, then you're not supposed to pass over a mitzvah. It's like over the talis and the tefillin, you're supposed to set it up, but you don't have to. You don't have to pass over the mitzvah to get the other one, right? To get the one that you want to do first. So here, you're not supposed to pass over the grain that you could have used to go to somewhere further away.
Right.
You have a story in the Mishnah. One time they brought the Omer from Gagas Shifim. Tan Rabbanan. This Gemara I think we had in Baba Kama also. What's the base? Yeah, Baba Kama and in Saita it says. Okay. Tan Rabbanan was taught in the Brayso Kshitzar Malchus based Chashmonai when they Chashmonai were at war. There were two brothers. Hayo Horkenes mi bachutz v'Aristobulus mi b'fnim. Hyrcanus and Aristobulus. Hyrcanus was outside the base of Mikdash, and Aristobulus was inside, and each one was fighting. They were fighting, maybe for Kain Gadol, or they're fighting. Every day, Hyrcanus's team, his group, would throw money over in a basket over the wall, and umalin lahem l'tmidim, and they would put in a sheep for the carbon tamid. Right, they were under siege, so they couldn't get out and get sheep. They needed a new sheep every day for the carbon tamid, so they would put money over the wall, and it would be like this exchange. They would put in a sheep. Hayisham zaken echad she'emake b'chachmas yivanis.
It's like over where eats. They would bring the sheep.
There was a one elder that knew Chachmas Yivanis. Now, Chachmas Yivanis usually you would assume means Greek philosophy. Over here, Rashi says that he knew how to do like sign language, or he knew like signs. Loaz lahem Chachmas Yivanis. He gave a hint to those people that were outside, to the I guess the Romans that were together with them in Greek. What his message was, while they're doing the avodah, you're never gonna win. You're never gonna overcome them. So lamachar shil shalahem dinarim bekupa. The following day, when the Hyrcanus sent over the money in the basket, hello lahem chazir. Instead of putting in a sheep, they put in a pig. So kivin shkiel chatzi chaim, as they're lifting it up, maybe they can't see what's on the other side. As they're lifting it up, so not sipana b'chaima, the pig put his nails into the wall. There's daz Eretz Yisrael arbamei esparsa. The whole Eretz Yisrael shook. 400 parsais by 400 parsais. And Ba'isa Shamro, at that time they said, Arur Shiyagadol Chazir. Cursed is the person that raises, that's a pig farmer. Arur Yelamed Benai Chachmas Yivanis. Cursed is the one that teaches his son Greek wisdom. Va'aleisa Shashanino, and also they also taught, Maisa Shaba, Aimer, Migagas Shifim Shtealechem, because ain't Soike. That at that time they had to get the Aimer from Gagas Shifim and the Shtealechem because Soike. What happened? Because the soldiers that were surrounding Yerushalayim had cut down all the grain there. Did they cut it down intentionally so they shouldn't be able to do this?
Yes.
That's what it says, right? Okay, so listen to this story. It's very interesting. It says, Kimata Aimer. When it came time to bring the Aimer, they didn't know where to bring it from. I see Aimer. They didn't know where there was new grain, where there was the grain growing. Aimer is going to be a barley grain, right? Achrizu, so they announced, does anyone know? Asu charsha. So there was a chirish. Chirish means a deaf mute, right? He shows up and he wants to tell them where it is. He puts one hand on a roof and another hand he puts on a like a little hut or a tent. Amalu Mordechai. So Mordechai was at that time. Mordechai is how was Mordechai around at the time of the Chashmonaim? Taisus asked that. Taisus says that they would call every person in the later years, and the person in charge was called Mordechai.
Caesar.
So this Mordechai says, "Mi ika duchta dishma gagas shifim shifis gagim." Is there a place that's called roof hut or hut roof? So Badku Vashkhu, they checked and they found out that the taka was. Okay, they found it because this person hinted to them like what the name of the place is where they can find the grain. When it came time to bringing the 2 loaves of bread, which was 50 days later, right? On Shavuos, that the Omer was on Pesach, second day of Pesach. The Shtei Lechem was on Shavuos. They didn't know where they could get it from. Achriza, they made an announcement. Does anyone know where there's any wheat? Now they need wheat. Asu Gabra Charsha, so that this deaf mute shows up. Puts one hand on his eye, and he puts another hand on the hinge. Is it a door hinge or the door lock?
They have door socket.
Door socket. Amalu Mordechai. So Mordechai says to them, "Yikaduchta deshma ein soiker or soiker ayin." Is there any place that's called eye door socket or door socket eye? So Bad Kavashko, they found that there's a place called Ein Soiker, and they found there was grain over there. Apparently, what happened was that this deaf mute was like an FBI agent. Everyone didn't take him serious. He would hang around in the different circles, and everyone said, "Hey, he's a deaf mute. He won't be able to understand anything." Maybe it was just a mute. Maybe that's the shot. Maybe it was just a mute. And they thought that he was deaf.
They have mute.
Because a chirish is usually translated as a deaf mute. But
they have mute, but
Rashi says over here, this is a shemeya veina medaber. He's not a deaf mute. He's just a mute. He hears. So that's why he was able to get this information, yeah?
Yeah, if he was deaf, he wouldn't know what they were asking.
Right.
Rabbi, I was thinking, this be like the elder that was a Leonel? Like they're just referring to him as a mute.
That we don't. That we don't have. That we don't have. And it's Daniel. the Eliyahu Navi in the Gemara is usually the Zaken Echad, right? This is something else.
Hahu Saba.
What is it?
Hahu Saba.
Usaba.
But
Usaba.
I don't know. Yeah, that's one that we know for sure, but it does seem like a lot of times Hahu Gab can also be.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't see a source for that.
Right. Okay. Hanu Shalish Nashim, there were three women, the Isa Shalish Kinim, that brought their karbanas. What is a carbon? A woman's carbon? It's the two birds that they bring, either Tyrim or Benayina, the older ones or the younger ones. Chada Amra Lizivasi. One of the women said, I'm bringing it from my Ziva, that she had an abnormal menstruation, and so she has to bring the carbon that made a tummy. Chada Amra Liyamasi. Yamasi means for her sea, for her ocean. Okay. Chada Amra Le Ainasi, for my time. Aina means a time. Sounds like the period. Savar Mina, so the sages understood, Le Zivasi is Zava Mamish. When she says Zava, she means a Zava. This Liamasi. Liamasi Mamish. That meant that the Ziva must have flowed like an ocean. So that's why she's bringing it. Lainasi is Lainasa Mamish. Also, it was a time when a Zava is supposed to bring. Okay, they had like interesting terms for their for what happened to them, but everyone had their own way of calling it, and that's what the birds were. The one would be a chatas and one would be an ayla, which the kulu chada chatas v'chada. All of those cases, which Danielle sent a message here.
Oh, yeah. I just, in Shir Hashirim, this whole discussion between the Hasmoneans, that's where we see that because of Sinas Chinam, the temple was destroyed.
Oh,
But that was
where is this in Shir? What is this?
It's,
It's
verse
Rashi. It's Rashi
12.
in Shir. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So so the sinas chinam here is being touched as the hatred between the two brothers that causes that the carbon wasn't brought, and then yeah. Okay, so Amalu Mardechai. So Mardechai with I guess the Mamuna, or maybe it's actually Mardechai. He tells to the sages, Shema bezoiv sikna. Maybe she was bleeding too much, hemorrhage. And Vishema B'yam Sikna. Maybe the other one was endangered because of the ocean. Vishema Be'ena Sikna. Also was endangered because of her eye. She had an eye pain. The Kulu Oilas Ninu. And they made a pledge that if they make it out, they're gonna bring an oila. Baduk Vashkach. Turns out they asked some more questions. They found out that was exactly what happened. Aina Ditanan. This is what was taught in the Mishnah. Psachia. Al Akinin. Psachia, he was in charge of the birds. There was a shofar. They called the shofar. It was pushka. It was I don't want to say piggy bank. That's not it's the wrong term here. But a collection box. He was in charge of the collection box. And Mordechai is talking about Mordechai. Why is it called Psachia? Because he was able to open up words and extrapolate and interpret what they meant. Knew 70 languages. Kula Sanhedrinamia, the Gemara asks. Kula Sanhedrinamia, the Shiva Lashon. Everyone in the Sanhedrin knows 70 languages. It's Google Translate. Dam Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says, "Ein mishivim Sanhedrin ela bali chacham, bali mara, bali kaima, bali zikna, bali kshafim, v'yedem shivim lashon." The Rabbi Yechanan says, you know who goes to the Sanhedrin? People of wisdom, people that are of good appearance, people that are tall, bali kaima, like intimidating. Bali zikna, they're older. Bali kshafim, they know how to do magic, and that means they needed to understand everything that. Today, that would mean that they know how to program, computers, probably. It means you had to know what the people were dealing with. That's what they meant. They knew all the tricks. They also knew the 70 languages. Because they didn't want the Sanhedrin to have to listen to a interpreter. So problem, there's two possible problems with the interpreter. One is it's aid mipi aid. You're not hearing it directly, and when it comes to witnesses, you have to be able to hear it directly from the witnesses. Not someone told me that, and even right in the Besdin, it would be that the witness told me that this, and the interpreter would be a witness from and hearing from a witness. And the other interpretation is be that we didn't want to make, we needed to make sure that they didn't switch the interpreter could have could have switched the things. It could end up being like a lawyer and switching things. No, not that lawyers switch things. Okay. So Daniel, the pshat a pshat that I heard in Bali Kaima, I heard a Chassidish pshat. What does that? What does that have to do with tall? It means that they know how to get up. That means that if they fall, they make a mistake, they know how to be resilient. They know how to stand up again. Bali Kaima. Yeah, it's a Chassidish pshat. Heard it. Someone told me this from maybe the Chidush Arim or something. Anyway, okay. So the problem is, if the whole Sanhedrin needed this, so what are you telling me that Mordechai knew this? He was able to mix up languages v'darish and interpret it. Mordechai Balshan. That's why it says about Mordechai. It says Balshan. This is very hard to interpret like Taisvis, because over here we're going back to the pasuk where it says Mordechai. Oh, in Ezra. Pasuk is in Ezra, talking about Mordechai. Now, according to Tosfos, he says every person that was there was called Mordechai, but the pasuk wasn't referring to him. Anyway, all right. Do the next Mishnah. Okay, let's go for it. Ketzarei Naisen. What would they do? How would they? You're getting a text, but it's not. Leave it. Ketzarei Naisen. How would they harvest time? Shluchi Bestin Yitzim of Yom Tov Naisen Kriches. The Shluchi Bezdin would go out before Yom Tov, and they would already designate what they were going to cut. So they would make it into bundles. They would take the way they would cut it is they would make bundles. They would tie it up, and then you would cut it after it was tied. That way, it would cut and it would be held in place.
So smart.
So they would have it cut. Yeah, back then people were smart. B'mechubel while it's attached to the ground, kadeshi neichli katzer, that it should be. It says over here that there were fistfuls, so they would tie it as fistfuls. Okay. While still attached to the ground, it should be easy to cut. All the surrounding cities would come to watch this event. It should be a big to-do, right? A big ordeal when they're cutting this. Why are they making a bigger deal when they're cutting the grain? Like, what's the big deal? Like an upshare. What's the big deal? You give a kid a haircut. That's right, but we make a big deal. So over here, they made a big deal when they cut the grain because they wanted to show the Baitusim. There was this group of people that held that it wasn't done the way we do it. So they held that it needed to be done after Shabbos. That means there was a Shabbos that would take place after Pesach. They had to do it on the night following Shabbos. It would always have to be like before a Sunday. Yeah, Lahavdil, the Easter is a Sunday, right?
It's Easter.
Yeah. It's a Goyish thing. So
it was like the people from England. I think were the ones that came up with that thing.
Yeah, but that would be based on the Baitusim's interpretation of when the Omer was brought. Because Shavuos is going to be 7 weeks later on a Sunday, as we're going to see. So they had to have this celebration, this Omer, also on a Sunday, because it had to be 7 weeks, right? So they held that it was always on a Sunday, and we held no, it's any day of the week. It doesn't matter, because the question is interpretation of Mimachar Shabbos, the day after Sabbath. What is that? Does that mean the day after the holiday, or is the day after Saturday?
Saturday, I learned that originally everything used to like line up with Pesach, but then like later on, I don't know what happened that they started like like it's separated, but that the week that they celebrate used to always like it was while we had Pesach, they had that week.
Oh, okay, that could be. The interesting thing this year, you're able to say the bracha on the trees in Nisan, on the mango trees because it's in March.
Oh, that's so cool.
Usually Nisan is like April something. No, it's in March, and the blossoms are still on, and there's loads of blossoms, mango blossoms. Some of them are already fruit. You can't say the bracha if it's already budding. It has to be just the. But I told you probably that if you start the months in March, if let's say Nisan is the first month, what corresponds to Nisan is March. So you do March, April, May, June, July, August, September is 7, October is 8. I don't know what November is.
9.
Does that mean 9? It's 9. And December is 10. So it works out with the numbers. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Otherwise, when you don't do it like that, when you start from January, you have a lot of questions on those numbers. Okay. So everyone would come together to watch this. Once the sun went down, it would say to the people of the city, Ba Shemesh, did the sun set? Omer Hain, they would say yes. Ba Shemesh, did the sun set? Omer Hain, they would say yes. Magal Zu, should I use this sickle? Omer Hain, yes. Magal Zu, should I use this sickle? Omer Hain, he said yes. Kupa Zu, should I use this basket? Omer Hain, yes. Kupa Zu, this basket? Omer Hain. This is the checklist that they go through, but they would involve everyone. So like those good preachers, like everyone shout, "Shall we?"
Sure,
Everyone shouts together. B'Shabbos, and on Shabbos they would say, "B'Shabbos Zu, should I cut it on Shabbos?" Amalehain, yes, cut it on Shabbos. Shabbos Zu, Amalehain. Ekzer, should I cut? Amalei Ktsar, they would say cut. Ekzer, should I cut? Amalei Ktsar. Shalish from I'll call Davar Davar. They would say this 3 times. We only listed it twice, but it was 3 times. They would say yes, yes, yes. Kolkach lama. Why would they make such a big ordeal, shouting and this and the back and forth? For the baitusim shayaimrim in ktsir saimer b'mitzvah yomtiv, that you don't cut it on mitzvah yomtiv, you cut it on mitzvah Shabbos. Okay.
It sounds like yesterday we had the whole thing about the cutting the 5 saw, the 3 saw.
Exactly.
3 people.
Sounds like colorboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Like a breakout.
Right.
Tanarabanan. Let me leave it over here. Let me leave it at the Tanarabanan. All right.
Be fair to say hi to Jonathan Gladman.
Oh, yeah. You want a shout out for Jonathan Gladman, the Yitzis. He sees it on the recording. Okay, have a good Shabbos, everyone.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Okay, Daniel Shekayach. Good Shabbos. Oh, I see David is on. Very
I
nice.
just got back I was in England for a bris.
Oh,
Sorry.
Got back,
England
yeah.
for a bris.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Hashem, it's very special.
Welcome back.
Is that a nephew?
Yeah, it's a son of my cousin. I have a very, very small family on my father's side, just my aunt and my father. So this is one of her sons. Yeah. Hashem.
So the Sanhedrin needed to be tall?
That's what it says. They needed to be
I have a
12.
problem with that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. You do something else.
Get you still.
Always have a job.
Okay.
All right, all the best.
Shabbos. Yeah.